we thought we were running away from everyone, but was the people that we were meeting here. And that's when it hit us that true self-sufficiency needs to be rooted in community, because it's not possible to do it all yourself, and it's not that enjoyable either.
You're listening to How I Grow This, exploring stories of gardeners from across the globe as we learn from their biggest tips and tricks to some of the things not to do. I'm your host, Luke Hammond. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the How I Grow This podcast. I'm your host, Luke Hammond, and I'm super excited for today's conversation. Number one, because we're in this little mini-series leading up to a major event that Seed Time actually puts on. It's called the Seed to Harvest Summit. These last couple weeks and today's guest are actually going to be speaking. So you're not going to want to miss that summit. That summit is actually live. So unless you make it live, you're not going to be able to catch it unless you buy the replay. So make sure you check out Seed to Harvest. I'm sure there's a link down below so that you can get signed up for the Seed to Harvest Summit 2026, taking place February 1st through the 5th. And today's guest is actually on the other side of the pond. This guest is Seth Feingold with Do Good Things. And so I think if we have any sort of tech difficulties, we'll try to bear through it, but we should be pretty good along the way. So Seth, welcome to the How I Grow This podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, super excited to have you. So we've broken down the Seed to Harvest Summit in several different theme days. And the theme day that I positioned you specifically is called Passion and Purpose, because I feel like as I'm just getting to know you, you have a very clear focus of passion and purpose. And I want to get into that in a little bit, but can you just kind of tell me your story? Because obviously you have a really cool Instagram handle name, Do Good Things. And it just really resonates with a lot of people who see so much garbage out in the world. So what got you into the growing space, and what's kind of your story?
Okay, so basically me and my partner, Poppy, we're both filmmakers. And we were living in London running our film production company. And we would do a mixture of kind of advertising and branded content, that sort of thing. We were doing quite well, making films, making a bit of money. And after COVID, we sort of just felt we were questioning what we were really bringing to the world with our work. And we were not to be virtuous, but we were just feeling mostly for ourselves a lack of purpose. And we knew that we loved nature and that we wanted to be more in touch with that side of ourselves. So we sold up, got out the city, didn't have anywhere to go. And we traveled the country. So we traveled the whole United Kingdom. We went up into the Highlands in Scotland, which is where my family live. We tried living there for a few months. And then we went to Wales, which is to the west of England. Well, it's not in England. It's its own country, but it's to the west. Make sure that's a very important distinction. Otherwise, the Welsh will get very angry. So yeah, we went and lived in Wales for a bit. That was amazing. And then in the end, we discovered this little place in Devon.
Okay.
So Devon is in the southwest of England, and we discovered this smallholding here, and we came here with in mind that we wanted to check out from society. So we wanted to do everything ourselves. We'd spent the last year learning about living in rural communities and learning about some of the issues that rural communities face a lot, with farming and food production. And we're getting pretty passionate about that. And I think our solution was to check out and to just say, you know what, we're going to do everything ourselves. So that's what I thought living on a farm meant. I thought it meant you fix the gutters yourself, you fix your car yourself, you grow all your own food, you need to have a cow, chickens, you need to do absolutely everything yourself, grow your own veg. And we did that. And in our first year, we pretty much jumped headfirst in, not knowing anything really, just learning along the way on YouTube and stuff. But we sort of didn't hold back. We just like did everything. I think we got pigs, chickens, geese. Those were the animals. And then we started a no-dig garden, and we moved into a cottage that didn't have any running drinking water or heating. So we were renovating all of that at the same time, all while still trying to do our jobs as filmmakers, to earn enough money to be able to do all this. And we burnt out really quickly. And we realized that our favorite thing about living here was actually, and this was a big surprise for us because we thought we were running away from everyone, but was the people that we were meeting here and the community that we were kind of accidentally building. And that's when it hit us that true self-sufficiency needs to be rooted in community, because it's not possible to do it all yourself, and it's not that enjoyable either. So that's led us to this year where we're starting our own CSA, and we want to try and feed 20 families a week and invite them into the farm, get the help we need, but also use our farm as a way to, get some of the local people reconnected with nature, reconnected with their food.
Gotcha. So for those who don't know, CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. Most typically, it's basically a box of produce that people are signing up for. Oftentimes, they're paying either all or a portion of it in advance to help the farm kind of get kickstarted to buy all the seed and all the supplies needed for that box program. So obviously within a CSA, I say box, it could come in a bag. It's just your food that you get. So what are you there's no CSA is the same. Some have meat, some have eggs, some have milk. What are you trying to put in this CSA box for this year one kickoff?
I think we're trying to encapsulate this idea that is so popular and that everyone has, which is that they want to move to their own homestead or smallholding and, do that themselves. And I think what we want to do with our CSA box is we want to say, well, here is our smallholding together. So the focus will be around a veg box. We're going to do a medium veg box per week for 20 families. That's going to be what your membership would pay for. And then on top of that, we want to do add-ons like eggs. We rear pastured meat chickens as well. And we do a couple of pigs per year as well. So we will have a few add-ons like meat and eggs.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about, you say a medium box. What does that equate to maybe seasonally? Like what do you think peak season, how much of what kinds of foods are going to be put into that box?
So we're calling a medium box. We're going to launch it as it will feed 3 to 5 people. So it kind of sits in that, depending on how much we eat, it could feed a whole family. Maybe it would be suitable for just a couple. That will have staples like onions and potatoes and carrots pretty much throughout the year. We want to buy in potatoes and maybe storage carrots because the other thing I should have said is we only want to run this and from June till Christmas.
Okay.
We don't want to run this all year round, not in our first season anyway. We've spoken to quite a lot of people and they've killed themselves trying to do it all year round when it doesn't work. That's our kind of peak growing season. That's what we're going to go for our initial box. But so we'll get our storage crops in there pretty much throughout the year. We want to grow our own second early potatoes. In the early summer, we will have nice Charlotte potatoes that we'll give, and we won't do the storage potatoes. Same with carrots. We want to do our own baby carrots, but we're not going to try and kill ourselves doing our own storage carrots because we just feel on our scale, on 1/4 of an acre, all done by hand, all no dig. It's just there's other ways we could spend our time more effectively. I think, and our growing space as well, which is pretty limited.
Gotcha.
We had great success doing salad leaves this year. So the previous year we did salad leaves wholesale to local pubs and restaurants and farm shops, and that was really popular. And it was a good income generator as well. So we definitely want to dedicate a portion of the garden just to salad, and we want to give salad with boxes, every other week. But we also would like to do salad wholesale, and that kind of financially is how we've worked out this can work on such a small scale. Is that
Okay.
wholesale salad produce, keeping things topped up?
So I know this will be kind of hard for my brain to translate numbers wise, but what is again? I'll say it wrong. What's the size bag of lettuce that's going to the CSA box? Because I'm thinking imperial, and I'm sure you're going to give it
Yeah,
to
I
me
mean,
in the normal way, the metric smart way.
the
Um,
right way.
yeah, the right way. But
um,
us contrarian Americans at some point screwed everything up and, and really struggled there.
Okay, so I mean, what do you want to measure salad in? Do you want to measure it in cups or pounds, or I don't know what else do
Probably
you?
like either a pound of lettuce
So
or ounces. A typical like
yeah,
market farm
ounces.
is going to be around 5 to 6 ounce bag of lettuce, and that'll go for about $5 US.
Okay,
Depending on where you are, it could go all the way up to $8 US.
so we
Depending
do.
on market.
So yeah, so we do between. It would probably be about 120 grams or 150 grams, which works out at about 5 ounces.
Okay. Okay. So a nice small, you know, salad size for 2 to 3 people, depending on the size salad in,
Yeah,
in the bag, and then
yeah.
okay, and then and that's gonna sum about how much pounds, not in weight, but in
in
dollars,
in
right?
dollars. So, well, a bag of sort of nice a salad mix, which maybe has some edible flowers in and some mustard
Okay.
leaf,
Yep. Yep.
a nice mix. That will go for around £2.50, £2.30, which is probably about just under sort of $4.
Okay.
But like I say, this is why we want to do the CSA thing. We don't want to be selling individual salad bags. We want to be putting a box in, and then
Gotcha.
that's how we do it. But to wholesale, we sell salad for about £20 a kilo. So again, that
Okay.
works out about $30 per kilo.
Hmm.
You don't
And you have
want to.
less time in bagging and all the stuff involved.
Yeah,
So
it works really well. This year we set up we just grew a salad mix, so we didn't even really think that much about what we were doing towards the winter. We grew like a mustard mix as well, but we didn't, and we put some chicory in as well. But
Mhm.
other than that, we didn't think too much about the varieties. We've got really good local seed companies in Devon who are doing all open pollinated heirloom varieties,
Mhm.
and we work with them. They've got a salad mix that we absolutely love, so that just does it. We plant them all mixed, harvest them just by chopping them off, and the whole thing regrows. So it's quite fast, and then
Right.
we wash them in a laundry spinner.
Mhm.
So we just dunk them in a tub, get all the dirt off them. Usually there's not that much if it hasn't been raining too hard, and then we'll put them in the laundry spinner. Once they're dry, we find that our wholesale customers can keep it in the fridge for like 2 weeks, and it's all good.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just trying to translate a lot of that from, my experience and where I'm at here. And the farm I'm currently running, we've been selling to a school system in a school district, which then distributes to a bunch of different schools. And we
Mm.
um, sell roughly, 36 to 56 pounds every week to them of lettuce. So, it's 18 or in
Yeah,
between 10 to 18 3-pound bags.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
quite a bit of
Yeah.
lettuce. But it's pretty financially good that
And
way.
what that's really interesting, because I think in our system, I mean, I would love to get kids eating this kind of thing and get it in the schools, and that's actually quite popular in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But the food that we have in our schools is like not good. How do you convince them to, spend the extra money for small scale organically grown
Man,
stuff?
that's a really great question. So out here, there's been a lot of different private money and initiatives and grants that have been made available through different government programs to try to get good food for kids, because that's not typically what is served and eaten. And so
Mm.
this farm was able to be the farm that was supplying for one of the grants and the grant money that was there, and it gets paid separately through food service. So they have to kind of know what the farm has or can produce, and then translate that and subsidize their other stuff.
So is that grant is that with the farm on, like, do the farms do it so they can provide cheaper produce to the schools, or do the schools get a grant so they can spend more money on it?
The schools get a grant so they can spend money, and then the farms apply to be the supplier for that grant money that comes in
Right.
typically. And
Okay,
so
cool.
there's
So you get
yeah.
connected as well.
Yeah, and there's different layers of that, and there's a lot of different farms that are small scale production. It's kind of like a larger United States effort to try to help our
Mm,
health challenges in the US, which we have quite a few. Um,
that's
so
really cool.
yeah, it's a cool program. Now, you mentioned so much stuff in the beginning, telling your story, and I have probably 100 questions that uh the American mind, obviously I can just listen to you talk all day with your accent, and so the American mind is just like, oh, I want to know more about what it's like living in England, and how far
Yeah.
is Devon from England, and what is this holding that you talk about, like how much
Yeah.
land is that? So if you can kind of describe some details of geographic location, um, and then the size farm that you are building and creating, and why you chose Devon over the Wales and Scotland and
Mhm.
all the other places you lived.
Yeah. So obviously in the United Kingdom, we're a collection of countries, but all governed by the same government, essentially. I mean, Scotland and Wales kind of do have their own parliaments, which is like the equivalent of Congress, but it's, yeah, we do have these different cultures. I suppose actually it's more akin to states,
Mm-hmm.
where they have their own governance, but, we're all together. So we were living in England, in London, and London in itself culturally is like its own place anyway, compared to the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What do you mean by that?
People talk a lot about a London bubble. So,
Okay.
and this is really key to our story, probably, and probably one of the reasons we stayed in London for so long. I'm from London. But when you're living in London, you kind of think that nowhere else in the country really exists, and that that it wouldn't be possible to live anywhere else. You wouldn't be able to get work. You wouldn't be able to make friends. You wouldn't be able to go and get nice food somewhere. There's this kind of feeling in London that people have. I don't want to call it arrogance. That's like a little bit spicy,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
but there is this feeling that like London is the only place on earth while you're there. So it does take quite a lot to kind of get out and really make that decision to get out. I think for us, it's a struggle to live in London. It's really expensive. So for us, we were living in a really small one-bed flat, which we loved, but we were outgrowing it quickly, and we knew that it wasn't sustainable for us to live there forever. We had a probably like a really small garden, probably only about 14 foot wide, 20 foot long, and we had one raised bed in that garden where we grew a couple of courgettes, but that was like it in terms of what we could kind of grow ourselves. And then the Highlands in Scotland, that's about 12-hour drive from London, and my parents moved up there a couple of years ago. So we love it up there. It's probably the closest we have to a true wilderness in the UK. We're not like the States where we have these like huge national parks and stuff. We don't really have that. We have the Highlands, which is a kind of mountainy region in Scotland. Lots of lochs, lots of inland lakes, amazing coastland. So we went up there, and that was really cool. But I mean, that was remote for us anyway. That was, we were 3 hours from the nearest town, a 3-hour drive. Very traditional rural Scottish community, which was amazing, and they really welcomed us in with open arms. We would go down to the community centre and have like barn dances, ceilidhs, they're called in Scotland, with the community, and we did a raft race with them on the loch. That was really cool, and I think it was amazing. But like, there was very few people our age there, and it's a certain thing to live out there. It's quite hard to do. And then we were drawn to Wales, partly because culturally it's a little bit different to rural England, in that Wales has its own like very independent mindset to the rest of the country, which is really cool. They're quite defiant culture, very, very proud. And there's a lot of alternative stuff going on in Wales. So there's some really interesting policies around homesteading in Wales, called the One Planet Development, which basically means you can buy a plot of land and you can get planning permission to live there if you meet certain criteria, certain sustainability criteria, like your house has to be a certain type of eco build, you have a certain amount of carbon budget that you're allowed to personally, that you're allowed to use in the year. Otherwise, you're not allowed to live in your house. It's a pretty crazy policy, but it allows people to buy a pretty cheap plot of land, build their own eco house, and live off grid and earn a living from the land, which is a pretty cool government policy to have.
Yeah. So when they talk about that, the carbon, how are they measuring that? Are they like...
It's all self-reported. I don't know. We looked into it and we visited a couple of communities because it was something that we were considering doing. But if you want to take a flight to go on holiday, like, forget it. You have to self-report it, basically. And your lifestyle, as far as sustainability is concerned, is tied to your home.
So it's you can't travel because that counts. The petroleum from traveling in an airplane counts towards your carbon credits and your impact on the world.
I haven't filled out the form myself, but as far as I understand, it's do you own a car? How many miles do you drive? A year. What's the fuel that you use to heat your home? What fuel do you use to cook? All of that sort of stuff would
what would be considered renewable? Are you allowed to cook and heat with wood on your plot, or
I don't know. Definitely.
Okay.
But I don't know how that would come into the carbon calculation thing. I think culturally, it seems like as we've gotten deeper into the whole regenerative farming world, it does seem as though carbon as a metric for climate change, it seems to be sort of being phased out anyway now. I'm not sure. People aren't quite sure how reliable that is as a metric anymore. Anyway, so maybe the policy will change. Essentially, I don't really know the details of it, but essentially, you get a plot of land and you live an eco lifestyle, and you're allowed to live there. Otherwise, in this country, across Wales, England, and Scotland, it's very, very difficult to buy a plot of land and build your, dream eco house. It's almost impossible to do. So this policy is amazing because it allows people to do that, and it allows people to do it affordably.
Okay.
There's just quite a big catch.
Cool. And so that wasn't quite right for you. Scotland wasn't quite right for you. And then you found this new community there. Walk me through that journey.
So we essentially found an existing cottage on 8 acres of land. So it's a little stone cottage built in the 1600s. It was in desperate need of renovation, which was why we could afford it. So honestly, we didn't really think we could afford to live in England, because England's more expensive than Wales and Scotland. The southwest of England, where we are, is a bit cheaper. And we're in a very, very rural area, which makes it a little bit cheaper. But essentially, the reason we were able to afford to live here was because the house needed so much work, and so did the land. Actually, it'd basically been abandoned for the last 20 years. This elderly couple were living here, but I mean, they weren't really able to do much. It was really sweet when we went to view. Like they showed us pictures of. They were like, "This is what it used to look like when we, could do stuff." And they showed us all their geese and flower beds and stuff, and it was beautiful. And we really fell in love with it and had that vision of creating that again. But it really did feel like we were building a small farm from the ground up.
Gotcha.
And just for reference, in terms of where we are now, Devon in the southwest of England is about a 4.5-hour drive from London, which is where all of our sort of old friends and some of our family are.
Gotcha. Now, the road system in Great Britain, are there what we would call interstates or very fast travel? So can you pop on one of those and jump to London going really rather quickly?
Yeah.
Correct.
The roads in Devon are pretty bad. I think there's but once you're on the motorway, the interstate, you go to London at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah. And then what about the train system? You have a pretty killer train system all through Europe. Is that a better way to travel?
It's better than America, but it's not good in this country. It's been privatized since the 80s, and train travel in this country is about 3 times higher than it is in the rest of Europe, cost-wise. So we drive everywhere. And we can't really afford to take the train when we go to London, so we drive.
Gotcha. Now, let's talk a little bit about climate and some of the things in your dreams, because we're trying to narrow in and kind of begin to focus in on this passion and purpose. As you were trying to live off-grid, if you will, to use the state's language of these, homesteads and kind of us providing everything, you realized that wasn't the right way. And you're like, okay, community is kind of the ticket, and these relationships that we have with our people in close proximity. What are you doing on this farm now? That's a relatively small farm, to foster that community outside of the CSA. How are you bringing in CSA members onto the farm? And what does this whole project begin to look like? And how do you spin it to do good things?
Yeah. Right? So, I mean, this is why we're called Do Good Things, not Doing Good Things, or, it's essentially a call to action. So, and it's a bit, the whole idea behind the message is a little bit tongue in cheek, because it's a bit like, well, what's a good thing? That's so subjective. So it's meant to be a bit of humor as well. But, Do Good Things, it's about inviting people to take action themselves, whatever that means for them. So what we're trying to show through our film work, which is a big part of our kind of outreach, is that we're trying to show, look at what we did. We made that decision to leave our lives, albeit with a lot of privilege. But we did that, and we made that decision, and then, you can do that as well, whatever that means for you. In terms of how we're bringing the local community in. So there's two communities. We've got the local community who will produce food for, and then we're trying to build this online community as well, which is where we get our wider message out. And in terms of the local community, essentially, I think we realized by trying to be self-sufficient that it's not possible anyway. You always need, you always need to
people.
go. Yeah, but even, you need to go to the shop and buy a bag of feed, or, you can't produce that yourself, or you need to, go and get your tire replaced on your car. I can't do that myself. I have to go and I have to use my community to do that. So it's a much more effective way to admit that you live in community, and to actually try and use what you have to contribute to the community, as opposed to holding it all for yourself and, saying, I don't need the community, because you always do. We're pretty self-sufficient still ourselves. We do eat all of our own veg, and we do look after ourselves, but it's no longer the kind of ultimate goal.
Yeah, well, I think even just that framework, what you just described there, is doing good things, because you could choose to go to the least expensive option where there's no relationship and you're shopping a discount on everything that you purchase, right? And sometimes there's a need for that as you're trying to scratch a living, or you can go to, your neighbor down the street who is a mechanic, and, you may not get the best deal, but you may, really help him survive, through his trade and his craft, in the same way that, your vegetables are, you want them to value your vegetables. Are you going to value his work? And I think there's a synergistic relationship that happens there, rather than just going to the big box store, which is the thing in the States, right? Or ordering on Amazon, which, has kind of launched.
Which we all do.
The next level. Yeah.
Like, especially living rurally, it's pretty useful, actually. But no, I mean, I think, going to the local mechanic, for example, we've got our mechanic literally up the road from us, and it's not, I don't go to him to support a local business for the sake of it. It's the most convenient thing to do, is to go to him. If I need it done quickly, I bring him a pack of sausages, and we barter. And there's a big culture in the West Country of bartering. I mean, this year I've made about 10 gallons of cider, and the pigs, they're pretty much our bartering currency, which is incredibly valuable. So I think we've got a load of timber from the house from a friend who has a sawmill up the road. Just give him bacon for that, And so, I think once you foster those relationships with people, you understand that you don't. It's not all about money. It's about that give and take as a community, and that's the kind of thing we love. So look, we're not trying to necessarily start a massive hippie commune here and invite loads of people in. Maybe we will. They don't tell our name. But we do want to invite more people to come and live seasonally on the land and help us out when times get busier. But ultimately, it's about inviting the community and making sure that this is a welcome place for people to be. So we're doing volunteer days, which has been a great success. That's been amazing. And it's a really good way of meeting people in the community, because we're very rural here, and people are quite spread out, and there aren't a lot of young people doing the sustainable thing, or interested in food and stuff like that. It can feel like we're quite surrounded by conventional farmers who are very stuck in their ways, and that we don't really have people to relate to here. Then we launch a volunteer day, and we realize that, there's this lovely couple or lovely young family who live down the road from us, and we didn't even know they were here, and they come along to our volunteer day, and now we've got some new friends. And that's been a really big success. And the same with us. We've gone and helped our neighbors and our local friends do their annual cider harvest of apples, and it's that give and take really. And then we want to run workshops here as well next summer, so that as alongside our film work, where we want it to be somewhat educational, we want to actually bring some real education in, not by us because we don't know what we're doing, but by experts that we've met. So like our area, the whole of Devon, the whole of Southwest, everywhere, is so abundant with amazing people doing incredible things.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to know a doctor of biochar, who's come to the farm and run a workshop, and we've done some filming with her. We know some expert growers. We've got the biggest organic vegetable biggest retailer of organic vegetables, basically Riverford. They're down the road from us in Devon. There's the Apricot Centre, which is the school that I studied at when we came down here, studied regenerative agriculture. So there's all of these people doing this incredible stuff coming together, and we want our farm to be like a little bit of a hub where we can host all of that expertise.
All right, you've dropped several different things here that I've picked up on. So you have cider. You talked about the Apricot Center. Talk to me about maybe the orchard trees that are on your property. Do you have a bunch of trees there? You've got, it sounds like you're in kind of like a stone fruit latitude with a lot of apples involved and probably pears as well.
Yeah, so we're 50 degrees here. We're in growing zone 9B.
Okay.
And Devon is very, very, traditionally has had a lot of orchards, and it's hard cider. Alcoholic cider. And so traditionally in Devon, the way that it was is before drinking water was really safe to drink, people would have a couple of apple trees in their garden. So this is very common for the older houses here. Mm-hmm. Every house will have like a couple of apple trees. We've got just at our orchards, like that's an apple tree outside there. Mm-hmm. We've got maybe a handful, 5 trees or so. And that's in the front garden of the cottage. And what would have traditionally happened is you would have let all the apples fall because they're cider apples, so it doesn't matter if they get bruised. And then the local press man would come over with the press, and he would crush your apples, probably all on horse-drawn cart and stuff. He would crush your apples, and then you'd put them in a barrel, and you'd ferment your own alcoholic cider. And that you'd have a couple of barrels in your basement, and that would be your essentially your drinking water,
your hydration.
for the year. And people would go out into the fields, and they'd have this kind of ceramic keg type thing, and that would be you'd take a gallon into the field, and that would be what you drink for the day of field work. So cider's like a big traditional thing here. We're planting this winter. We're planting about 50 apple trees. So we want to have a pretty small orchard, just to be able to grow apple juice and more cider, just because it's a really cool thing that apples grow really well in Devon. And this year was a mast year, so we're talking to some of the people who've lived in our valley for like their whole lives and stuff, and they've said, a year like this only comes around every 25 years or so. This is really special. So that was really, really nice to experience.
And that's why you had the 10 gallons of cider that was able to be pressed, because you had a bumper year. Yeah. Very cool. What other kinds of fruit trees are kind of grown in that area? You said the Apricot Center, so I was curious if that's a thing, or that's just what it was called, or
it's just what it's called.
Okay.
I think there are a couple of apricots there. Plums are quite popular. To be honest, apples and maybe a bit of pears, but really apples is the only thing that's grown fruit-wise in the southwest of England. It's all cows and sheep, cattle and sheep around us. That's what every farmer is doing. There's a bit of arable. They'll be doing maize, for forage and for biodigesters and stuff, but really no actual kind of food is grown where we are. There's a bit of livestock being reared, and they'll be moved somewhere else to be fattened and stuff, but very few of the farmers who are on the conventional farms here are actually growing food.
Gotcha. Let's dive into the kind of European conversation regarding no dig, where America calls it no till, just because apparently we're trying to be different again. Let's talk about kind of your practices from what you've researched and studied, and the people in Europe that are doing no dig gardening. What does that kind of process look like for you in your garden beds?
So the two big people, I suppose, doing no dig here are Charles Dowding. Have you heard of him?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And Richard Perkins.
Yep.
Who you've probably almost definitely heard of. So yeah, they're the kind of no dig pioneers here, and we emulate their methods. So we put down cardboard. Sometimes we did a bit of a mixture this year. We're creating 36 no dig beds over the winter. So quite a big job, 10 meter by 75 centimeter, so 3 foot by what's 10 meters? But your standard market garden beds. Yeah, we're creating 36 of those. And yeah, we're putting down 15 centimeters, so 6 inches of compost, and then wood chip paths in between.
Okay. Talk to me about sourcing compost out there, and then is this compost still active when you're putting it down, or how has it been cooled off and is no longer, actively decomposing? What does that look like for sourcing?
So we have in Europe we have PAS 100 compost, which means it's been pasteurized. So it means it's been made in such big windrows that it has been completely sterilized. So this is really abundant because we have the council collect our green waste, which is our waste from our garden and all the leaves from the street and everything. They put it in these massive composting facilities, and then the compost is free. So you just have to pay the haulage to pick it up. And that is sort of the main, most abundant, most easily accessible source of large scale compost in this country is this PAS 100 stuff. It's pretty inert because it's been pasteurized, so there's no life in it whatsoever. It does also mean there's no seeds, but it's a really good source of organic matter. Potential questions about contamination with plastic in it, because wherever there's humans, there's plastic. So this is coming from people's residential, household green waste bins, and they're not meant to be putting plastic in it, but of course it ends up in there. And then it all gets cooked in these windrows, so it's getting to serious temperatures, which is a bit, sketchy if there's plastic in there. So we don't feel great about that, and we want to be producing our own, even though there is this abundant free resource which people otherwise see as waste. So to start the garden, we're using this PAS 100 council waste compost, and I think we're using about 100 tons of that. And then we use wood chip from tree surgeons. So again, the pigs come in very handy here. All the local tree surgeons know that if they drop a pile of wood chip at ours, they get a pack of sausages.
There you go.
So that works really well. Actually, we've got one tree surgeon who's vegetarian, so we give him a veg box, and he's really happy with that.
There we go. Yeah.
So we have a pretty good supply of free wood chip. It's not clean, which is a bit of a shame, but it's free and it's there. So essentially what we're doing at this stage is we're getting carbon on top of our soil. We have clay soil. So it gets compacted really easily because we have a lot of rainfall here. So as soon as it's wet, it compacts. And if it's left bare, it just gets that clay pan, the water droplets all make that perfect, almost mirror finish on the soil. So this is why no dig works so well for us, because we can get that carbon in the soil, get that water storage going, and get that fungal network with the wood chip and everything. That's the idea behind what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We tried a mixture of, we sort of trialed some no dig, that sort of Charles Dowding approach to no dig, putting compost on top of the ground, wood chip paths, against a sort of minimum till approach, where we used our pigs actually to convert pasture into vegetable beds. And that was really successful because we have really fertile soils. So we don't need to be putting compost on it, in terms of fertility. We're putting the compost on there for structure and for water retention. We're not really that concerned with fertility. We're putting the compost there as food for soil life. That's the main thing, is we're trying to encourage soil life. But actually our soils are quite fertile. So we had great success this year with doing a sort of mob grazing or strip grazing approach, but with pigs. So we had 4 pigs, and we'd put them in really small electric fenced areas. I mean, way bigger than the legal free range, but small. So it would take them a few weeks to terminate all the pasture in that area, and then we'd move them up the field and we'd plant crops behind them. And we did potatoes, squash, and courgettes like that this year, and it was incredibly successful.
What
We
kind
got
of
amazing harvests, but we also got a lot of weeds.
Yeah. After you pull the pigs out, and what would your bed prep look like? Do you have some sort of equipment, or was that all by hand? Is that, if you got heavy clay soils that are probably wet from the rain that you have, and pigs there, how do you manage that?
So we had a really dry summer this year.
Okay.
So we moved them probably 5 or 6 times, and every time was a little bit different because we had something new going on. So if it was very, very wet, the pigs would have compacted that soil, and I'd run over it with a rotavator, just because that's all I could get my hands on. But if I had a power harrow or something like that, that would have been a lot better, I think. So I'd run over it with a rotavator to get a tilth going, and then we would, by hand with a hoe, we would just dig out the paths. And so we kind of made these little, very, very, shallow raised beds. So that would be our bed prep, and then we'd plant straight into it.
Gotcha. Have you played around with different path widths? Are you kind of leaning on that? I guess from my terms, it'd be 18 inches. Is pretty standard, like JM 40 style, or
yes. So I got really obsessed with him and got really into the whole thing. And we have one place in the UK, it's a shop called Reag Tools, which is where we can buy all of that sort of stuff, like those tilthers and dibblers and all the amazing tools that James, was it James 40?
Jean Martin 48.
Jean Martin, JM.
Yeah, JM. Yeah, JM.
And I kind of created this shopping basket of stuff, and I managed to source a BCS tractor on Marketplace, and was about to go and pick it up and stuff. And then I just thought, what am I doing actually? I don't think I want to do it this way. And that's not a judgment on anyone else who's doing that way at all. It's just that I think I am not, you can tell that JM is like super into like growing plants. He knows how to grow plants. He knows what nutrition they need, and it's quite a precise way of growing, which I think is really cool. For me, that like doesn't interest me. I don't know how to grow plants. What I want to focus on is creating soil life, and then I want them to grow the plants for me. So that's why we're doing the no dig approach, because I don't want to, have this really input heavy approach, and which is kind of funny to say with no dig, because obviously one of the criticisms of no dig is how much input it needs in terms of compost. But I don't want that input in terms of nutrition and stuff. I don't want to think about any of that sort of thing. I want to try and let the soil life look after it. I mean, what do you think? Is that naive?
No, I don't think so at all. I was just curious if you've played around with kind of your aisle widths and
Oh, sorry.
sizing. Yeah. Um,
Yeah. So for the beds that we're now putting down, the permanent no dig beds, we're
mhm.
doing 45 centimeter, 18-inch paths, and
Okay.
75 centimeter 3 foot beds. We had played around. We had done 1 foot paths, so 12
Yeah,
inch paths,
it's really tight.
with 90 centimeter beds. So I'm not sure
Hmm.
how many inches that would be. And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Um, Super tight, quite hard to get a wheelbarrow down. And
Hmm.
that slightly bigger width of bed, which is what Charles Dowding likes to do. So we were kind of copying his approach.
Hmm.
You have to lean over so far to get to the other side of the bed, and we're always
Yep.
treading on the bed, which is fine, but this
Hmm.
75 centimeter 3 foot seems to work a lot nicer, and that's what all the tools are designed around anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Um, so you're working on building this microbial life. How many years are you into this project? Because it was 2020 when you first kind of transitioned out, and kind of moved around trying to figure out your zone and where you're going to land. You landed. When did you land in the farm that you're at now?
We moved here in 2023,
2023. So you're 2 full years in now, right?
almost. Yeah,
Almost
in,
two
in
full years.
March we'll be 2 full years in, so very, very, very close.
Yeah. But I mean, 2 growing seasons. So, I mean, I can
Yeah, but
measure.
the first growing season, we were just trying to live here. So we were
Okay.
kind of focused on the house. We didn't really get anything in the ground until like July. So we sort of had a half growing season for the first year. I would say last year was our real like first go at it. We're doing things properly. So we've essentially experienced one growing season here.
Gotcha. Very cool. And how do you, what was your biggest success in that growing season? And what was probably your biggest learning point? We'll call it that
Mm.
way.
Um, I love growing squash.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if you mean success in terms of a crop, or if you want me to.
Either
Um,
way, wherever you feel
yeah,
that your success came.
I loved growing squash. We grew pumpkins and squash. So sort of and what did we grow? We grew a variety called Cinnamon Girl. Have you heard of that
Mm-mm.
pumpkin? Um, Small orange
Okay.
pumpkin. Really sweet. Looks a bit like a jack-o'-lantern, like Halloween pumpkin, but it tastes really good,
Okay.
and it's smaller. And then we grew. Oh God, well, I'm not very good with varieties. We grew some Crown Prince squash, and we grew a green variety called Meteor. Um, and between those three varieties, we had a bumper harvest. And what I loved about it was that the squashes already at once. Basically, the plants would die. We would
Hmm.
harvest them and cure them, and then it was chill because we didn't know what our markets were. We didn't have this whole CSA thing worked out. So I was kind of just like going to the farm shop ad hoc and being like, hey, do you want, with my car full of stuff and being like, hey, do you want to buy some of my veg? It's really nice. And that was really difficult to do with, say, courgettes,
Hmm.
because we needed to be, with three of us working in the garden, but no real experience or no real organizational methods. Um, and that's been a big change with seed time. We didn't really know what we were doing. So with the courgette harvest comes around, and it's like, oh wow, we have to be out there every single day harvesting courgettes, otherwise they're turning into marrows.
Mm.
Um, and that was an oversight. We definitely like didn't expect that, and that was a very difficult crop to sell, um, because we had a glut of them and we didn't know what to do with them. But the squash we could put in storage and just sell
Mm.
it
Hmm.
when it worked for us and when the opportunities arose. So I really
Hmm.
like growing that crop. Um, Biggest failure or biggest learning. Interestingly, I was just about to do. I'm just writing a script for a film on what are our biggest learnings this year. So let me have a look at that. Okay, yeah, let's go with number one, balance. So since we've moved to the farm, wow, we did not know what real hard work was until we moved to a farm. And I think, like, especially a gardener as well, like any market gardener you speak to, I feel like I've kind of dipped my toe in that club. I'm sort of just starting to be in that club now. I like get it, and I understand what real work means. And you sort of, it feels like you speak to anyone else in any industry, especially the film industry, which is where we were, and we love to think that we work really hard in the film industry. No, not a competitive thing. It's like no way. And we are really passionate people, and we're quite independent, and we love to have our projects and stuff. And we do this to ourselves where we just take on too much. When we take on too much, we don't do anything as well as we wanted to do it. So I think our biggest learning this year was balance. And we're getting much better at being like, oh, that's a really cool idea. Let's shelve that and we will get to it when we're ready, but let's not take it on right now, and let's focus on this. And the same with crops, let's not grow, storage potatoes, for example. Let's not grow. I don't think we're probably not going to be able to grow our own chilies because we don't really have the polytunnel space. We're going to focus on tomatoes instead. Balance things out, and for us, that usually means taking on a little bit less so that we can do a little bit better.
Yeah. I think one of the challenging pieces while you have this skill set of filming and setting all the stuff up and editing and doing all of that, that's a whole thing on its own. And if you're trying to have the farm and the film, you've just doubled your workload, and people don't realize that. Kind of triple it. You're like, oh, I'll just film myself doing these things. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. That means it takes double the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And a lot of the time on the farm, especially this year, we found ourselves not filming things because it just had to get done. And then we thought, well, hold on. It's actually one of the things you said to us when we first spoke was
really?
Yeah, you mentioned how the film side of things was really where we can have a bigger impact than obviously the farm side of things, where we're only farming on a small scale.
Right.
And the film side of things is our opportunity to have that impact. And we took that on and we thought, well, if we're just panicking about the farm and, stuff needing to happen there and it not even having that bigger impact, what's the point really, especially last year, because we weren't really feeding people. We were supplying a couple of small scale, doing just a really, really small scale wholesale clients. So, panicking about that and actually missing out on the story was really a mistake, because the story is really where the biggest impact is going to happen, which is why for our CSA, we're actually hiring a head grower. So we'll grow along with them, but we want to get that balance right, and we want to focus on the film stuff a little bit more next year so that we can actually focus on telling the stories, doing the research, putting that across to our audience.
I think that's so huge. I think it is a missed thing in the space of telling other people's stories and people that are doing the gardening, and I'm first of all really excited to have you kind of talk about passion and purpose and share your story in maybe a little bit different way where I'm not interrupting and asking questions, for the Seed to Harvest Summit. But I first want to say thank you for being willing to step out in vulnerability, saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going into this world trying to do good things. And I'm going to step into garden and farm and what was the term you used? Holding,
small holding. So it's like we say small holding instead of homesteading in this country.
I love that. I think that makes really good, mental, stewardship sense. Yeah. When you think of it like that, hey, I'm just here stewarding the land for the time I have. I think one of the things that we kind of lack in America is that sense of longevity and time. You talked
Mm,
about the house that was built in the 1600s. We weren't even a country.
mm.
Like America wasn't even a country when that house was first put together. Um, so it's just kind of wild. There was buildings here, but they weren't. It's just different to think about
And,
it
and these communities and these traditions as well. And
yeah,
like when you move culturally, when you move from the city to a rural community, especially in England, I think it's probably the same in the States as well. But like the
yes,
countryside is so steeped in its traditions and its ways that like you moving in here as an incomer and you really have to have humility with that.
mm,
Um, you can't be coming in with all these ideas, especially about sustainability and stuff. So when we moved here, we thought like, we were like, oh yeah, God, everyone's rearing cattle, and isn't cattle like really bad for the environment and stuff like that? And so we had all these ideas, these kind of city ideas and stuff like that. And it wasn't until we started to get to know people and like get to actually understand what they're doing, that we could really make sense of it for ourselves. So
yeah.
that's why I always go like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's to cover my back because I don't. And I'm not stepping into this space pretending that I know it all. That's
Right.
I'm saying. I'm pretty good at making films. I'm pretty good at telling stories. I'm pretty good at learning new things, and I can communicate all of that to other people. But I'm not going to be the one telling people how to grow stuff.
Man, I just love that. You guys are not going to want to miss Seth's session on February 5th. It's going to be in the morning, I think at 10 a.m. Central Time, which is going to be evening over there in the UK, or wherever you're at in the world. We do have listeners all over the place. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the How I Grow This podcast. For those of you who don't know, it's brought to you by Seed Time. Probably the best place to digitally plan your growing calendar, your journal, your layout. All the features are completely built into one unified software so that you can plan your garden with success.
Without a doubt.
There's a lot of innovative tools in there and AI models that are being created for companion planting and so much good stuff in there. So make sure you get your free account today. And this is, again, just a great honor for me to be able to talk with Seth in this case and people from all over the globe. If you have any suggestions for people that you want me to reach out to interview on this podcast, go ahead and send an email in to us. Also, make sure you sneak on over there and give us a big thumbs up, a like, or a subscribe, or share this episode with somebody who you think will enjoy it. That is what really helps us get the story out there. So thank you guys so much. Seth, thank you for your time today. And look forward to having you in just under, from time of recording in about a month on that. But when this releases, probably like 2 weeks.
So, well, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm super excited for the summit.
Awesome. Man, thanks for staying tuned all the way to the end. We're so excited that you're here, and that probably means that you enjoyed what you heard. You found some value in it. If you could, go and share this with somebody that you know. That really helps push it forward in the algorithm. Hit a like, a subscribe, hit a review. It makes all the difference for us. Thank you for listening to the How I Grow This podcast, and we are dedicated to bringing more of these stories to you to help you grow at the next level. We'll see you.